This is Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX, developed by Spike Chunsoft and published by the Pokemon Company. This game footage was recorded on a Nintendo Switch. So Pokemon Mystery Dungeon has been on the channel before. I played a demo of it fairly early on. Or at least it seems like it was fairly early on. God, it seems like it was last year. It wasn't. It was like last month or something. Anyway, it seems like it's been ages since I played this game. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX is a remake of the original Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team, Red and Blue. In the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon universe, you are transported to the world of Pokemon and then transformed into a Pokemon yourself. The game gives you a fairly wide variety of Pokemon to choose from for you to take as your own persona in the Pokemon world, and then a buddy to usher you into the world of Pokemon and answer any of your questions and generally just hang out and be a good team party member with you. Story-wise, it's fairly simple. You're a human who's been taken into the Pokemon world and turned into a Pokemon, and you kind of just want to figure out how did that happen, why did that happen, etc. Meanwhile, there's some weird and strange things happening in the world of Pokemon, and you've been recruited to form a rescue team with your buddy and any other Pokemons who want to join you to help Pokemon who are in danger, etc. Gameplay-wise, it takes on the role of more like a roguelike kinda. It's more like a random dungeon generator kind of thing. You have a team of Pokemon and you go into mystery dungeons to perform some fairly basic tasks, which are either get to the bottom of the dungeon or rescue a Pokemon who's lost in the dungeon or find particular items that are in the dungeon, etc. But all it basically boils down to is you just fight various different Pokemon that are in the dungeon. The game kind of does it for you. It's fairly automated to the point that there is an auto-run kind of thing where it will just ping-pong to the different items on the dungeon floor, and when it's found all of them, it'll just automatically go to the next floor of the dungeon. The dungeons themselves are randomly generated, so every time you enter and exit, there'll be the floor plan will have changed. Maybe different Pokemon will be there, etc. You've got the catch-em-all mechanic that Pokemon is so famous for, because you can recruit party members to join your rescue team, and you can flesh all of that out to collect all of the Pokemon. Again, gotta catch them all, only this time it's gotta recruit them all, I suppose. It's very fun and cute in the way that Pokemon has cultivated that kind of image. So, like, I do feel good playing the game, but I also realize that there's not a ton of game to it, in the fact that it practically plays itself. You can go into it and actually choose, what moves your Pokemon use. You can set up their strategy. You can try to maneuver them into positions that make it more advantageous and things like that. But to be honest, you get just as far just letting the game do it for you. It's very automated. There's a bit of mindless bashing on the A button, turning on auto runs so you don't need to deal with the tile system and stuff like that. I do enjoy interacting with the different Pokemon, and they have like different personalities and things like that. It's very cute and it does feel good to play it. But Animal Crossing also came out this month and has kind of the same feeling to it, so I don't know. A lot of the missions you get in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon are very samey. There's a bit of mobile game-ness to it, in that you kind of turn the game on, you do the same collection of tasks, you turn the game off. Next day, turn the game on. And to be fair, Animal Crossing later on in this video will have much the same issue. But yeah, if you like Pokemon and you're not looking for like a big Pokemon RPG again, if you're looking for like a kind of relaxing, kind of feel-good game that has cute characters and stuff like that, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX will definitely do that for you. This game is currently exclusive, and I don't imagine this is going to change, exclusive to the Nintendo Switch. And my sick house. Yeah. This is my toilet. This is my table. This is my kitchen. This is my bed. Sick. Where is my Nintendo Switch? This is Moons of Madness, developed by Rock Pocket Games, published by Funcom, game footage recorded on a PlayStation 4 Pro. Moons of Madness is a first-person linear narrative horror title based kind of loosely on H.P. Lovecraft's Mountains of Madness, the Cthulhu guy, basically. The game starts with you having a weirdo dream, you know, that may or may not have dire portents, or maybe you had bad cheese that night before, I don't know. Anyway, you go about your daily life on Mars as you are living on one of the first scientific outposts on Mars. So you're just basically a technician fixing up machines and various problems that happen on the space station. This kind of involves some very light puzzle solving, but mostly just kind of prop hunting, basically walking around the environment to find the button you need to press to progress the story, which normally is fine, but for whatever reason in this game, I just spent a long time trying to find the thing I needed to interact with, rather than trying to figure out a puzzle or anything like that. It just took me a while to find the thing in the environment, whether it was like a misplaced watch or an energy core or something like that. It's just kind of annoying. Additionally, the environments can be a little difficult to navigate. The kind of outpost you're on is a bit samey. It's hard to tell what room you've just been in or where you are in the environment. It's very easy to just go back on yourself. So I found that kind of frustrating, especially when I'm trying to find out, did I go here yet? Have I been over there yet? I appreciate that it's a horror game, so giving yourself a map kind of is a little bit defeatist in it, because it's just not that kind of game, but I don't know. It reminded me a lot of a game called Soma, which I actually liked a lot. It's a very similar kind of game in that it's a first-person linear horror title set in a difficult environment. That in Soma's case, it was in the deep sea, and in this case, it's in Mars. But you know, they're both difficult environments to be in. It's just I liked Soma a bit more because. And this is mostly because there's not that much downtime in Soma, whereas I found in Moons of Madness, I spent most of my time looking around the environment for, as I said, just looking for the prop, which is really annoying. The second thing that the game has that is also similar to Soma is that there are just random run away from enemies, which I hate. I hated it in Soma, I hate it in this as well. I just don't like it. It just seems kind of lazy to me. You know, Amnesia did it as well, and people liked Amnesia, and Alien Isolation does it, but it's done extremely well in Alien Isolation. But both Soma and Moons of Madness would do better to just not have them in it. And Soma even did have a release later on in its life where they actually did get rid of these just random roaming monsters that you can't fight and just have to run away from. All they do is artificially inflate the length of the game. And it was clear going back to Soma, once that patch had come in, the game is just considerably better, just flows a lot better with them gone. And I have a feeling Moons of Madness would as well, like the second time you play the game, now that you know where all the props are, the game probably flows a lot better. But yeah, I kind of bounced off it. There's a video up on the channel that I'm trying to do a few more of these for games I do for the monthly recap. So there's a Foley Plays X game for a bit, so I have a Foley Plays Moons of Madness for a bit, so you can see some of my frustration in that video if you want a deeper dive into it. Anyway, Moons of Madness came out last year on PC and possibly Xbox as well. I'm not sure. It's just the first time I'd heard of it was earlier this year, and I was just waiting for it to come out on PS4, so it came out late in March. Anyway, check it out if you want. I can't say I really recommend it though. Run when you're ready, like. Hi. I don't think he was supposed to stop. This is Nioh 2, developed by Team Ninja and published by Koei Tecmo and Sony Interactive Entertainment. This game footage is recorded on a PS4 Pro. Nioh 2 is the sequel to the original Nioh. It is a a Souls-like or a Masocore title. Nioh 2 is set before the events of the original Nioh, so you won't necessarily need to have played it. If you're not familiar, the Nioh games take place in a kind of fantasy version of ancient Japan. Specifically, Nioh 2 takes place in the Sengoku period of Japan's history, which is basically when it became a country by itself, so like the Age of Warring States, which is a fairly popular setting for Japanese folklore video games. In Nioh 2, you play Hyde, or Hide, or Hidi, entirely sure of the pronunciation, who is kind of a half demon or a half yokai, if you prefer, which gives him the ability to kind of shapeshift into his yokai form, which is a new addition to Nioh 2, which wasn't present in the first game. So this gives Hide, I'm going to say Hide, this gives him some abilities that the original character William wouldn't have had. So his ability to again shapeshift into a yokai, but he has other things like he can possess the cores or souls, I guess, of other yokai that he comes across in the game. So if you defeat them, they might drop it as a part of loot, and then you can then use some of the enemy abilities. So you might fight an enemy that throws a spear, and if you have their core now, you can throw the spear, or you can transform into a big ogre and punch people in the face, and various other things that just supplement your already fairly robust abilities. So Nioh 2, or Nioh in general, kind of sets itself apart from the other Souls-like games in that it's very action-focused. I mean, the Souls games themselves are all like combat is definitely in the forefront, but the actual depth of the combat system in Nioh is just, there's no real comparison in the Souls series of games, Souls types, I guess. Masocore types, I don't know what we're going with here. Anyway. So if you're not familiar with the original Nioh, you can check back. I've done a couple of videos on the original Nioh. I really liked it. Nioh 2 just kind of fleshes out on it. So you've got lots of different weapons that you could pick from. Heavy weapons, fast weapons, mid weapons, long weapons, etc. They all have different stances. So even within one weapon style, you can have a faster version of that weapon or a heavier, stronger version of that weapon, etc. And then those weapon styles have different abilities that you can unlock. So a lot of them are just kind of basics, +2s and +4s to various different things, but you can unlock like straight up new abilities where you can, if an enemy's guard is broken, you can run up them and like jump over their head and slash them behind and stuff like that. It's kind of nuts. The key system also returns, so it's this kind of stamina resource and generation thing. Stamina is a big thing or big mechanic for the Masocore titles, and Nioh again has its own little subsystem for handling that. There's lots of different finicky things in Nioh that when you come across them the first time, they're going to be very scary, but once you're used to it and you've played and you've gone through a couple of areas with it, they're still scary, but you know how to use them at least. The game is like very punishing, even more so than the original Nioh, which was quite hard. Nioh 2 is actually even a little bit more difficult. But there are, like, again, lots of different changes. So one, in that you have those yokai abilities and you can collect different enemy abilities, which is actually very Castlevania style. You also have Dark Realms, which are also a new addition. So certain strong enemies can just sort of infect areas of the game, and this basically gives you a debuff to your character. It buffs your yokai side, but debuffs your human side, if you like. So your human abilities won't be so good, but your yokai abilities will be a lot better. But also the enemies, because they are full yokai, will be significantly stronger in those areas. And some of them are required to pass through the game, some of them are not. So, there's an optional level there where you can collect loot and so on. And there is a ton of loot in Nioh. Again, another thing that sets it apart from Souls and Bloodborne is that there's just tons and tons and tons of loot. Different weapons, different armor, different sub-weapons, different accessories, and then all the different item drops, the materials for crafting your own stuff. Just so much going on in Nioh. It really is like very, very large and a very, very deep game. And it annoys me that I have not played more of Nioh 2. Again, like Moons of Madness and Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, I've done Foley Plays Nioh 2 for a bit. You can check that out on the channel, where I got stomped a lot by lots of different enemies, and I gritted my teeth against the boss as well, which I did not defeat in that video, but you might notice, or eagle-eyed viewers might notice, that I did beat him in these videos, because because these levels are set after that level, so there's that. Anyway, there's a lot in Nioh, and Nioh 2 just adds onto that, so if you want a more deeper look at it, be sure to check out that other video that's on the channel. Nioh 2 is currently only on PS4. And he hangs out. He's great. I love him. I don't know what he's called. It's probably in the illustration somewhere, but he's great. You can get multiples of these guys if you happen to run into them. This is Doom Eternal, developed by id Software, published by Bethesda Softworks. Game footage was recorded on a PS4 Pro. Doom Eternal is the sequel to the very latest Doom reboot, Doom 2018? Was it 2018? I don't remember. 2016, I think it was. 2016. Anyway, you fill the boots again of the Doom Slayer, or Doom guy in his big green armor and massive rippling pecs and, what was I saying? Anyway, just ripping and tearing demons, just more of it. So the kind of really fast-paced return to old school mechanics of just getting in there and fighting. You know, the way they pushed you to do it in the reboot was that like health was tied to actually killing enemies. You know, you had to go out and get ammo. There was no regenerating health. If you wanted shields, you had to go and get it. You had to take the fight to the enemy. And they're just pushing it up even further here. So some new additions. There's new guns, as you might imagine. Doom Eternal itself makes a bit of a statement by, rather than starting you with the pistol, which is like a typical FPS starter gun, they start you with the shotgun, just straight up. Here you go, get to demon slaying. And there's lots of different new mechanics now. So he's got his double jump, which he had in Doom 2016, but he's got a dash. He's got this kind of arm blade thing. He's got a grapple that he can connect to his shotgun so he can reel into enemies. And then there's other mechanics, like he's got this flamethrower, so if you set an enemy on fire, they'll start producing armor. If you chainsaw an enemy, they'll produce ammunition, and if you glory kill an enemy, which is this kind of flashing and then flashy animation for how you kill them, they produce health. So you've got these kind of resources to deal with, and then on top of that you've got like grenades and your different weapons and the different weapon types. You know, so they have subtypes as well. So you've got your grenade, and then you've got your shotgun, right? And then you've got a subtype of the shotgun is a rapid fire version, like a full auto thing, or a subtype of it might be an explosive shell or something like that. And they all have these kind of things, like the heavy machine gun has a mini rockets function, or it has a sniper scope kind of function, and they all have different use cases. And then on top of that, the demons themselves, they have weak points. So like the bigger demons, not the fodder demons like imps and infected soldiers or corrupted soldiers and stuff like that. Like the big guys like spider demons and the Kako demons and stuff like that, they all have weak points now. So the spider demon, for instance, has a turret on top of its head, so that's a weak spot for it. So you'd need like a sniper scope or, you know, a really good aim with a shotgun or something to hit that. The Kako demon, which is basically a big round mouth with an eyeball. Surprisingly, the eyeball is not the weak point, the mouth is the weak point. So if you can manage to fire a grenade in there, it can do a lot of damage and stuff like that. And then different weapons do more damage to different types of enemies. Like you've got the Hell Knight. He's kind of relentless. He shrugs off most ammunition. He'll take damage from it, but it won't really stop him. If you want to stop him in his tracks, you'll need a chain gun, something like that. So it does push you to really constantly be changing your weapons. And then platforming on top of that, the environments are really interesting. They're really vertical. There's a lot of space for you to move around as Doom Guy, the Doom Slayer. There's just tons of options that they've thrown at you. Somebody on Twitter made the comparison that Doom Eternal is basically first-person Devil May Cry, which is I kind of get where they're going with. There's like constant weapon changing, constant styling on enemies and stuff like that. It's not as like overtly stylish as Devil May Cry, but it's definitely got that depth of combat that isn't immediately apparent because it does just look like a first-person shooter, but there's a lot going on underneath Doom Eternal. A big change, though, is the difficulty level. The difficulty has ramped way up in Doom Eternal. There's a really strong spike right at the beginning when Doom Guy is, as you might imagine, at his weakest. He doesn't have his upgrades and all his different weapons and stuff like that. So you're going to die a lot, or at least I did. But you're very quick to get back into it. Checkpointing is generous, and usually it was some mistake you made. So you'll find that it's just a change in tactics will probably do the job for you. And just being a bit more aggressive, and the game does push you to be more aggressive, because if you want health you have to go and get it, if you want armor you have to go and get it, etc. You need to produce it, either make the enemies produce it or find it in the environment, but usually it's you just making the enemies do or produce the resource that you want. So if you've run out of ammo, get your chainsaw out. If you've run out of health, get a glory kill in. If you've run out of armor, set someone on fire and start making them produce armor, etc. There's tons in Doom Eternal, and I'm really dying to get back to playing it more. Doom Eternal is currently available on PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. This is Animal Crossing: New Horizons, developed and published by Nintendo. Game footage recorded on a Nintendo Switch. So this is Animal Crossing: New Horizons, otherwise known as The Animal Game on Twitter. Basically this is a kind of slice of life thing, but with anthropomorphic characters and kind of feel-good, fuzzy feelings kind of thing. The game starts with you, or your character, going on this deserted island package from Nook Inc. Basically it pretty much just throws you on a deserted island with two other villagers and the Nooks, and your job is to kind of just live on this island, you know, gradually build the island up into this nice little community of anthropomorphic animals, just having a good time, being good neighbors, making nice things for each other and hanging out. It's a real, like, relaxing, feel-good thing, and it's kind of why it's all over Twitter right now, because it's like a direct opposite of how the world is right now. For anyone watching this in the future, this is done during the whole COVID-19 thing of 2020. So yeah, we've got everybody locked up in their own house, so they're kind of living vicariously through this Animal Crossing thing, which is just a much nicer universe to live in, I guess. Gameplay wise, you kind of go about your day just doing the kind of crafting survival stuff that you might kind of be familiar with these kind of games. It's like collecting wood and stone and so on to build things, like build out your tools like a shovel and an axe and a fishing rod and whatever, what have you. And then you can fish, or you can build up crafts, you know, build yourself a table, build yourself a chair, etc. You know, build yourself furnishings, and then go about building up a community so you can invite more people to your deserted island, build up from your tent, and so you build out a house, and then the local shop, so that you can get that out of a tent and build it into an actual building, and so on. You can invite this museum guy, this owl called Blathers. This is my first Animal Crossing game, so I'm sorry how much of this is actually new, I don't know. But he will like categorize and collect all the different animals you manage to collect, insects and fish and different fossils and stuff. It's just a nice, slow-paced, extremely slow-paced game, and it just feels good to just walk around and talk to the cute characters, interact with the environment, You know, it's very simple, but it's just very fun and relaxing. I mean, that's kind of all I really want out of it. What I'm saying for slow paced, so something that isn't really, or doesn't really come across in a lot of games, is that the game progresses or updates in real time. So it will match the time of day that you're playing it at, and it will match the date that you're playing it at. So if you're playing it on a Wednesday at 12 p.m, then that's what the game will be as well. And the animals, the villagers that you're with will be conducting their daily routine at that time. So what would they be doing on a Wednesday at 12 p.m? That's what they'll be doing. There's no way to progress further in the game other than to go to bed in real life and wake up the next day and turn the console back on. Which does lead some people to like manually setting the clock on their Nintendo Switch forward by X many days so they can skip a couple of things. The early game is a bit of a grind, so that's fair. So you will have like a real IRL week of not getting very far in the game and not having a lot to do, but it does open up as it goes. The game does introduce things to you every day, kind of, depending on what you did the day before, I suppose. So there are milestones like building a bridge or getting enough material together to build a shop, etc. So the game won't progress until that is done. But even then, if you did everything that came up in one day, you'd still have to wait the next day for it to actually update. So it does mean that you're not playing the game constantly all through the day, even though you might want to at this period in time. So it does have a bit of a mobile game to it, in that you play it for a bit, you leave it alone, you come back to it, you play it for a bit, you leave it alone, etc. Only the come back to it in a bit is usually the next day. Unless there's something you want to do in the daytime, and then there's something you want to do in the nighttime or something like that. You know, different fish come out at night, or different insects come out at night or during the day, etc. Because of the nature of how the game progresses, it's kind of difficult to get game footage for it, and it's also kind of difficult to get to all the different mechanics. So I'm not especially far in the game. I've kind of only just unlocked the shop. I think I've got some costume guys coming at some point as well, and that kind of thing. There is a bit of multiplayer to the game as well. You can invite other people to your island, other your friends that you know, or you can go to just randomized islands. The game will randomize for you, or you can go to other people's islands and stuff like that. So there is that to it. Some downsides to the game, other than the IRL progression, I suppose. It's one island per Switch console. For most people, it's one player to one Switch console, so that's usually fine. But for anyone who's sharing a Switch, for instance, and would like to share saves on Animal Crossing or something like that, you can't do that, basically. So that kind of sucks. And the other thing is there's no cloud save backup on Nintendo Switch Online. So if you lose your Switch or lose your save, it's all gone. You gotta start from the beginning. So that sucks, and I kind of hope Nintendo find a way around that, because that's kind of shitty, and I don't really like that. It's not going to affect me a huge amount because I'm the only person who plays my Switch, so that's fine. But I can see why this would be a huge pain in the ass for a lot of people. But either way, Animal Crossing New Horizons is good, fun, fuzzy feelings time with fun animal pals who just want to get along and have a nice time. And it's currently only available, because it's developed and published by Nintendo, so it's currently only available on Nintendo Switch. Those were some of the games I played for March 2020. Some really, really good games this month. Animal Crossing is just keeping me sane all the way through this coronavirus thing. So I'm playing it every day, and it helps me take my mind off things. So I really appreciate that game. Doom Eternal and Nioh 2 are good for just blood pumping action. Basically, Doom Eternal is a joy to play, even if it is extremely difficult. And Nioh 2, I'm just getting back to the original Nioh, which is a game I never finished, but I really enjoyed, and I'm just really enjoying playing Nioh 2. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon has kind of just been supplanted by Animal Crossing, because it was my sort of wind down game, and now Animal Crossing is my wind down game. So that's a bit unfortunate timing for the two games. Maybe spaced out, they might have got a bit more time to each other. So it's probably unlikely I'll actually go back to Pokemon, but I did enjoy it with the small amount of time I did play it. Moons of Madness I did not enjoy. I really wanted to like it, and I do like the premise, but it just frustrated me. I don't know if it's prop placement or if it's just me not paying attention or what, I don't know, but for whatever reason I just found myself bumbling around the environment instead of just progressing the game forward. So that was kind of annoying. Anyway, that was this month. So next month, April 2020, probably still in lockdown. The big game will be the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I've been looking forward to that game for like, Jesus, how many years now? More than 20 anyway. God. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what to say about that. I'm ecstatic that it's even happening. I don't even care if it's bad. The Resident Evil 3 remake, also, holy shit. You know, I mean, when they announced the Resident Evil 2 remake and it turned out to be exceptional, like the very next question was, okay, when are you doing Resident Evil 3? And they are, so yeah, delighted that that's coming out. But not a ton else on the calendar. We got a game called Deliver Us the Moon, which is another space 'em up, I'm gonna call them, like these narrative driven things that happen in space and freaky shit happens. It's been out on PC for a while, and has gotten some really good reviews. It's well received, so I'm looking forward to playing that. And then Below will be making its debut on PlayStation 4. That has featured on the channel before. I think it was last year I looked at it for PC, but I found the game kind of hard and not entirely all that fun. But I know that they have rebalanced it since then. There's been a lot of features added to the game, so I will check it out, see if it has changed at all for PS4. And in lieu of anything else coming out, that might take the 4th spot on April's video, or maybe new shit in Animal Crossing. I don't know. I'm not exactly super far in that game, and it takes a really long time to open up. So there's that. Anyway, also looking at doing some more one-shot videos so you guys can get a bit of a better look at not so edited footage, I guess, of the game, so you can get an idea of how they actually play and my actual reactions to when I'm playing it and stuff like that. So if you see something in a recap video and you think, hey, that looked interesting, I wonder if there's more I could look at it, then I got you sorted for some of the games, not all the games, but some of them. So if you missed it, I have some gameplay footage for Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX, I have some for Nioh 2, and I have some for Moons of Madness. None for Animal Crossing, just because it's like, what would I do the first day with me just getting on the island and being, okay, this is pretty much the game now, I'm going to turn it off. And then, yeah, I should really have had one for Doom Eternal, and I still will. I'm gonna do it. I kind of wished I had it before this video came out. Anyway, let me know what you thought of this month's video, or if you're looking forward to stuff for next month, yada yada yada, all that social stuff. Yeah, great. Thanks. Bye.